What do you want, Francesca?
What do I want? Throughout my life, that answer has never truly been mine. Even as an adult, my parents ignored my wishes. I love my mother and father and have done everything I can to please them. But the shine of obedience is fading. Once again, I imagine the future waiting for me at home. The path laid out, every step planned. Lifting my gaze to Ethan's, clarity strikes, sudden and fierce, like a tropical storm breaking open the sky. This is it, my last chance to be selfish, to claim something that's only mine and hold on tight with both hands. Even if it's fleeting, even if it goes against everything I've been taught. I know it's wrong, but tonight, I can't bring myself to care. I'm tired of being the perfect daughter, dutiful and restrained. Right now, I yearn to be reckless, wild, free. And the only thing I want is to kiss him.
That was written by this wonderful author here, Elena Marie. How you doing today?
I think that's the most interesting introduction that I've had. Hi, how are you?
Doing? Cheers. Let's have a glass. Let's have a little toast real quick after that.
Toast to that. Toast, a cigarette, something.
So how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for coming on to Meet Me in Napa podcast. For those who don't know, this is Elena Marie, and she is my wonderful sister-in-law. I could not have gotten into the family without her approval, so I'm glad that she's here today.
Real talk. I'm glad you realized that. Yeah.
It wasn't the dad, it was her. So how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So the reason why you're here today is from that excerpt I just read is from a novel you have written,
yes.
correct?
Yes.
Correct. And
the draft.
The draft, but the final is coming out soon.
The final is coming out soon.
All right. It's called 9 Months.
9 months.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's a very good book, and just to be clear, it's not like your old school, just full of erotica kind of book. But
it's not a Fabio romance.
Yeah, it's not a Fabio romance. But I just figured I'd pull that out to get people to I can't wait for that book to come out, right? Because that's what happens. So tell us a little about yourself.
Elena Marie. I hail from the beautiful Bay Area. Grew up in San Francisco, and got into writing as a child. I won a contest citywide contest when I was in 4th grade. And it kind of gave me the confidence, I guess, even at that age. How old are you in 4th grade? 10, 11? Yeah. I don't know. To keep writing, start writing, kind of take it a little bit more seriously.
You weren't writing that?
No. No.
Okay.
It was a contest about how much I love my mother. So it was the complete opposite of that. And then I ended up minoring in creative writing in college, and wanted to write a book then. But it just felt very overwhelming. Like I have to start my life. I can't stop and write a book. I don't have time for that. So, but I will say it was around that time that this idea for this book, 9 Months, started to germinate in my brain. It was around that time when these characters started to come to life in my mind and my imagination. And and then I just kind of shoved them away in a box and started living my life. And then at a point, I got older. I've had a successful career. I'm still having a successful career, knock on wood. And I just was looking for something more. Mm-hmm. What, kind of like that passion. I love to travel. I love to eat good food. I love to drink good wine. But, there's just felt like there was something else that I should be doing, that I want to start doing. And those characters that I actually started writing, I started putting pen to paper sometime in the probably late 90s, early 2000s. Mm-hmm. Actually, probably 2000s. I actually started writing the story out, like literally pen to paper. And I found the notebooks, and it was funny because I don't remember exactly when I wrote it, but it was timestamped because there would be a line in there like, I came home and I saw the light blinking on the answering machine. I'm like, okay, obviously this was a while ago.
You had to do a revised version.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I got to update this puppy.
So I'm sorry, just real quick. So the story that you are going to publish, you actually started in the early 2000s.
I've had the idea for these characters for probably, I'm not going to say my age, but probably about a solid 20 plus years.
Okay.
They've been, not like every day I'm thinking about them, but the story has been inside of me for that long.
So you wrote this thing about you talk, just kind of backtrack a little bit. You wrote this thing about your mother, right? You said
that was like an essay.
I know that was an essay,
yeah,
but that sparked the excitement for you, right? Then you went to
winning sparked the excitement.
Oh, winning. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. You said, well, I won, so I must have.
Yeah. It was like validation and
right.
Way, yeah.
So then you went and you had creative writing in college.
Right.
Yeah. So you kind of had this mind that I want to be a writer.
Yeah, I wrote it in high school. There was another contest that I won, like within the school,
right?
And I just had these like small moments of validation.
You found something you were good at, and people were saying
you're good at this, and I was like, oh, okay. And so then I minored in creative writing in college and had ideas, but just wasn't ready to take it into the real world.
So what were you? Stage. What were the book that you wrote? Were those the books that you were reading? Were you inspired by, or what was the thing that you were reading?
I was reading romance definitely in high school and college.
So you had the Fabio. Was Fabio? Were you?
No,
he wasn't your heartthrob.
No, it's really funny. No, I actually, one of my favorite authors at that stage, her name was Elizabeth Lowell. And I loved her books. I remember I loved her books. And and one of the books was called Chain Lightning. And I loved this book. I loved it. I was like, oh my God, it's such a great book. And then I actually found, like going through boxes and stuff, I found it. I was like, oh my God, this is that book. And I read it and I was like, this book is crap. Mm-hmm. But it also just shows, and sorry, Elizabeth, but it just shows, it was also a thing that just showed how romance, the genre, has changed over the decades, and how it very much is not, the romance genre of my teenage years. It's very much, it's like even the section that you read, there was that between them, there was a conversation about, consent and contraception, which is very, very normalized in romance today, to the point that if you don't have that conversation, it's noticed. It will more likely be noticed by readers, and that was nothing that you would have been reading. And
right, it was always like a man just taking the woman.
Yeah, like, and so it was. So I was reading. I definitely was reading in my teenage years. And then, starts with, what does every teenage girl start with? Like, are you there? God, it's me, Margaret, Judy Blume, all those types of stories. And, that's like the entry drug to romance. And then, and then start reading, more. And so, but not all of my writing was that. In college, I wrote a screenplay, and it's about a Black family, that kind of like a riches to rags story, and how the mother of the family can't handle it, and her journey, I guess I write about women's journeys, her journey to kind of accepting that like money and wealth is not what makes her, like it's her family, and it's the people and the love around her. So that was a completely different story that I wrote.
So after reading the book and then hearing what you just said now, are you drawing inspiration from these characters from your actual real life? Or is there anything that what you've been through influence any of this story? Or is it more so you're just creative in your thoughts? Like, how did you build these characters, Ethan and Francesca and all these, like they're the two main characters.
Yeah.
But how did you come with these stories, and what influenced them?
I'm going to say I am not consciously building from my own life.
Okay.
So I don't think so. Are there parallels? Maybe. I could probably find some.
There's some common human things that happen to us all.
I could probably say, oh yeah. Like if I go back and think about it, but consciously I'm not like, oh, I had this experience, let me infuse it into the story. No. In fact, the only conscious thing that I did, which anybody who knows me well enough and long enough will know that I love Dirty Dancing. Dirty Dancing was like another gateway drug into 13 years old, seeing the story. I think it was the first time that I recognized like forbidden romance, like forbidden love, and there's something about that movie other than the fact that it's awesome.
Other than
that
Patrick Swayze.
Patrick, rest in peace, Patrick.
We're aging ourselves right now.
Yeah, I think I did. I gave my exact age when that movie came out. Damn it.
Shit.
So I actually had a lot of fun with this book of just infusing it with a crap ton of Dirty Dancing Easter eggs. And that was fun. Like, so that was very intentional. And it didn't necessarily start out that way, but it became like when I was thinking of character names, like Francis in Dirty Dancing, like the main character name's Francesca. And then she needed an ex-boyfriend, and that became Neil. And that was like the guy, you know, kind of, although, you know, the names and the characters don't necessarily match.
I have to admit, I've never watched all of Dirty. Like, I've seen it in bits and pieces, but I've never watched it from beginning.
You talked to my sister about that.
My sister loved that movie too. That's why, and she was so crazy. It made me probably not want to watch it because, you know, when you're young growing up, you're like, that's girl stuff. You know?
Yeah. No, it's so I was very intentional about that, and that was just it was just fun for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure there are some. I'm sure you can draw some who they are, like where I drew inspiration of who they are. I say these characters literally just came to me as they were. And it's a very woo-woo type of thing to say. And again, anybody who knows me well enough and long enough knows I'm not a very woo-woo person. So it's weird for me to, like, it's weird to even say out loud, but it's so true, is that they showed me who they were. And I was just like the vessel that like, put them on the page.
So what does the process look like when you're developing? As I was reading it, I thought about something. I was just struck because when you're dealing with the arts, whether it's acting, when you're an actor, you have to bring that character that is on a script to life, right? When you're singing, you have to write a song that pierces the heart, right? And so I'm thinking, as a writer, you have to in order for you, the story has to be good, but you also have to believe the characters. Like, there's something that you have to connect, right? Yeah. And I thought that was so interesting because, you know, Ethan is a billionaire. This is all like wealth, right? There's a lot of wealth going on. And so even though I know that they're living a lifestyle, it comes from a lifestyle that I might not necessarily live, I still connected.
You don't have a private plane?
I don't.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know, yeah.
I mean, I guess.
You would have liked me sooner if I did.
Probably.
You'd have been like, yes, man.
My sister would have too.
Yeah, right. So yeah, but it's like, yeah, right. There's private planes, there's equity, there's mergers, it's all these stuff, but that it's kind of like those are the backdrop, right? It's just the setting of the world they're in, but you really fall in love with the character. So my question with all that being said is, how did you develop this? How do you draw and develop each storyline with these characters? What is the process? What does that look like?
There's this great quote by Tom Clancy. I'm 99.9% sure it's Tom Clancy, but if I got it wrong, I'm so sorry. But it says the difference between fiction and reality is that fiction has to make sense. And I love that because as a writer, writing fiction, that is the hardest thing in some ways to do, to make it make sense. You have make it make sense. You have this idea. You have these ideas. Oh, I want this to happen. I want that to happen. And then you start writing it down, and then you're just like, oh, wait, no, why would they do that? Or that doesn't make sense that they would do that. You can't just be like, you have to dig in, and you have to make it to where a lot of somebody else's are going to believe it. And the process of that, for me, is trial and error. So in case the title doesn't make it clear, the book 9 months, the main character, the female main character, FMC, is pregnant. It's an accidental pregnancy off of a one-night stand, and then it's a journey throughout that 9 months to the end where they have their HEA, or happily ever after, which is a requirement in romance. You have to have a happily ever after, or a happily ever after for now. So that's like the premise of the story. And basically at the part where Ethan finds out that Francesca is pregnant with his child, which was very unexpected, I had to figure out how he would react and what he would do. And I wrote that scene, I think 3 or 4 different ways over a period of time, over a period of months. Because I would write and be like, okay, this is what it's going to be. And then come back to it and be like, oh no, that doesn't make sense for I want to go. Okay, wait, what if they did this? Okay. And so that there was a long time of me figuring out that beat. And what I ended up,
it like sometimes you get further in the story, then you have to
100%,
go back. Then you got,
100%.
I got to go change this. If this
I actually wrote my first 100 pages of the book and then scrapped them and started all the way over because I got to that part of the book and was like, I like hit a brick wall and I couldn't, I knew I wanted to go. I've always had certain scenes in my head. I know I want this to happen. I know I want this to happen. I know I want this to happen. But getting there, I took some wrong turns. I hit some brick walls and then I'd have to like reverse, beep, 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 start over again. So I did, there were things that I wrote and then scrapped and then I would rewrite and then I'd be like, oh wait, no, that I never, if you're a writer, never delete, or you're starting to write, don't ever delete anything, because something that I wrote this chapter that I loved and then I completely rewrote this part of the book and I was like, oh, this chapter is not going to work anymore. And it was like, I had to kill my darling. Like, oh, I love this chapter. It's not going to work. And then like a year later, I'm reworking the book again. And I'm like, oh, wait, that chapter works again. And so I like found it and brought it. I had to tweak it, So there's just a lot of I feel like, what's that game with like the cups and you're like moving them around.
Oh, yeah. Put the ball in.
Where's the plot, And so with that, I also would like take some online courses and listen to some, webinars and people. And one person, she suggested there's all these different ways that you can go that people suggest for you to figure out your character. You have to know your character. You have to know how they would react in this situation, how they react in this, how they would speak, what words they would use, so that, the book is told from both Francesca and Ethan's perspectives. Those voices need to be different, right? Yeah,
I was going to just say, even as I was reading it, how you broke it down, like each chapter one was this character, one was the other character, right? There was this constant back and forth.
Very popular.
Of seeing it through. And so it was almost like I was watching, I was like, man, this is a good Netflix. I was sitting there watching it. I'm already producing it for Netflix, right? I'm like, it's like an 8-part, it's like, it's one book, but you could see clearly like an 8-part series in this and I can't remember what show I just watched not too long. And I don't want to waste time trying to figure it out, but it was that perspective. One episode was from the husband's point, and then the other episode was from the wife's. Yeah.
It's very popular in contemporary romance to do that, to have the dual perspectives. Also very popular just to have one perspective throughout. I find it easier to have both, just to allow you like a peek behind the curtain on both. So one of the people that I was like looking at their webinar, she suggested, I was saying that there's all these ways of how you find your character. Some of them are like, fill out this survey, like what's their favorite food? What's their favorite color? Where would they go on vacation? It was like filling out a dating profile or something. And I don't have time. So, so this one person was like, fill out this, it's called Enneagram. It's a personality test. We've all taken, personality, I'll say we all know about them. We may not have taken them. Different personality tests. And this is Enneagram, and you fill out this, this list of questions, and then it spits you out a number, and then your number corresponds to you're this, you're that, you're this. And she's like, do that for your character, like inhabit your character, take the test of them. And I was like, I can do that. That takes about 30 minutes. And so I did that for both Ethan and Francesca. And when I did that and it spit out and said, this is who he is. And what I like about it is that it tells you who they are at their best and who they are at their worst. And so when I was reading this profile and I was like, okay. And then within like, I don't know if it was immediately, but pretty darn quickly, I was like, that's how he would react. Yeah. And I was able to go in and write that scene of what's in the book
Ethan,
now.
He's like a fixer. Like he's very,
he's
you
going to
can tell,
get straight to it.
Yeah, you can tell, like, even without knowing, and even the way you set up the characters, it even had me excited to know, who they were before they led up to where the story begins, right? Because, like, you could tell Ethan, he probably was, like, captain of the football team, probably a debate team. Like, he always excelled everywhere he went. So now he's facing this problem that he doesn't have full control over. And you start to see that he's trying to fix it, and things are slipping through the cracks, because what's happening is now there's love involved. And this isn't just a business deal or crunching numbers or things that you can, hey, I'm an expert in this. He's like, no. And you also could tell how he never, I don't want to give away too much, but he never really given himself to love because he was a playboy. Right. And so it just was amazing. Now I wanted to kind of pivot a little bit because by the time people see this, the book, they'll be able to have the book and they can read it and stuff. But some of the parents' development, I really, really, really like. I really love. I don't want to talk bad about his dad, so we'll talk.
I mean, it would be valid, but
his dad was just, oh my goodness, right? He's a villain, right?
Yeah.
But
every good story needs a villain.
Yeah, every good story needs a villain. But I even loved the plot twist, which I won't say, but you're watching Francesca and her parents, and it's just very controlled. It seems like you start to understand this world that they're in. Like they're from high society. All the relationships are perfect. Everything is planned. You have the right husband. You're going to go to the right college, and she blows everything up because love is involved. And I think that's what's exciting about the story, how you've written it, because that love is the variable that you can't measure, right? You can't. It's not predictable.
Yeah.
It makes you make decisions. What's that song by Babyface? Love.
Yeah.
Makes things happen.
Yeah.
You never know who you're going to love. You never know. And so, but the point being, with that being said, is that with Francesca's parents, they loved her, but because it didn't go the way that they thought, they had this rift for a season.
And that's very common, right? That's
It
very
is such
human.
a common thing.
It's such a maybe again, not set in, this world, most people aren't living in that world, but it's a very common thing. And one thing that I liked about Ethan and Francesca, and there were moments where I would draw, like you would hear them saying very similar things in their own world. Like there were times when I purposely had them kind of mimic each other, because at the end of the day, they were both having a similar journey where Ethan was losing control from the inside out and Francesca was losing control from the outside in. Right. And one was embracing that loss of control and the other was fighting against it. And when you talk about, does this parallel your life? And I'm just thinking like, I am a control freak. So that's something that I could maybe speak very well to, with these two characters, again, unintentionally, but not with saying that. I'm like, oh, and then the ultimate control freak over here. But so I wanted their journeys to kind of mimic each other, but also to your point, I said every story needs a good villain. I think there were characters that you expected to be a villain and then found out that they weren't. And
exactly. Yeah.
One of the things is there's a business, and again, I don't want to give away a lot either, but there's a business associate that they need to deal with. And in the beginning, they just say he's not what you think he might be. Right. And I think some people may have an expectation, depending on who you are, some people may not, of how he's going to turn out. And I did. Yeah. I did. Yeah. And I just really wanted to not make it predictable, but also allow that people do, and there's a whole conversation about this in the book, that people are nuanced, and just because they do certain things doesn't mean that is who they are, And so I wanted the story, I wanted the characters to reflect the nuance of just who we are as people, and like you may see somebody do something and not agree with it, but that doesn't mean they're inherently a villain or a hero. Right. It just, we're all complicated and we're all just trying to get along, get through it.
I even liked Lisa's husband, William.
Yeah.
I really love that character because you can tell he genuinely had an affection for Francesca as a friend, and he held Ethan he was constantly there holding him accountable, right? And
William's like my Jiminy Cricket.
I get what you're saying. Like, I really loved his story. Like, he was a very subtle, didn't have it wasn't in a lot of the story, but he was there at the right times. And as I was reading it, I was just really intrigued by that because you tend to find like there's these really important pieces in the story that the story's not about them, but they serve this very strong purpose. and influencing how the people are making decisions and, you know, how they're feeling about the circumstances that's at play. But I want to congratulate you. It was really good. Yeah, it was really good.
Thank you.
But I wanted to kind of pivot and ask you this question. We were talking about the other day. You're a Black woman.
So I've been told.
Writing a book. You are, yeah. Last time I looked.
Yeah. Same.
But you're writing a story, and it's not a Black story. You know, it's not a Black story. Tell me, what was your motivation behind that? And from the beginning, and has there been any feedback from anyone since they, you know, read your book, publishers or anything of that nature? How's that journey been?
Honestly, it wasn't anything I thought about initially because I was just writing the story that was inside of me. And that's just all I was doing. And when I first started writing this, I didn't necessarily have plans to publish it or to put it out there. I was just writing a story that had been inside of me for a very long time. And I decided to put on paper, so to speak, you know, a computer. And so I really, there was no thought about it at all. I was just doing what I wanted to do. And then I had an opportunity to enter a contest for diverse writers and diverse stories. And
you won that too?
No, not at all. And so I started thinking about, did I want to enter the contest? Did it make sense? But then I'm like looking at the guidelines and everything. And all of a sudden I'm kind of like, oh, is this going to work? Because yes, obviously I'm a Black author, but this is not a Black story. It's a diverse story. There are characters, you know, different races, different backgrounds. Not all of them are rich. Not all of them are white. You know, and I was like, oh, is me being Black enough? Which is unfortunately a question that's had to ask in other areas of my life as well. And so I kind of start, okay, do I need to change the characters? Do I need to make them, you know, do I need to make them Black?
Yeah.
You know, and then it felt inauthentic to me.
Right.
You know, what felt authentic is that these are how these characters presented them to me. Like I said early, they came through me. I put them out. It felt very inauthentic to me to like make them something else to check a box.
Right.
And so I just was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then I went on and continued writing and editing and getting, you know, to where I am now in the final edit. And by the time you see this, the book will be out there. But right at this moment, I'm in the final edit. And I'm meeting with my team to start talking about marketing. And what I've been realizing is that there is an aspect of our community that is not going to embrace me being a Black author isn't enough because I'm not a Black author who's written a Black story. And that saddens me. It does, but I have to accept it. I don't not understand it. I understand it on some levels, not all. I don't know if I agree with it or not. It's really neither here nor there, whether I do or not. But I have to accept it. You know, Shonda Rhimes is one of, you know, the greatest producers right now.
Yeah.
And some of her stories are Black and some of them aren't.
Yeah.
You know, I say this book is almost more of a Bridgerton, you know, where there's just like a cast of, you know, like I said, diverse characters. It's not obviously set in modern day New York, but, and it reflects, you know, I feel like the characters reflect real life.
They do. Yeah.
You know, what you would expect to see in this world and in this, you know, you don't find this out until the end because there's really no need to say his full name until the end. But like William is Korean, right? And in reading it, you don't really know who or what he is.
Yeah.
And it's because it's not important really at the end. And the only reason it comes up is because I have to put his actual last name at the end. And then you're like, oh, but you know, it's unimportant to the storyline. Everybody loves William. Yeah. They don't love William because he's Korean or because he's not. They love him because he's a good guy, right? Yeah. You know, so it's disappointing, but I'm not going to change who I am or my lived experiences. I grew up in San Francisco. I grew up in very diverse communities. I just had my high school reunion last night, and I was talking to one of the guys there, and we counted that there were 4 Black women in our class of 210. That's how I grew up. And I'm one of the 4. That's how I grew up. And so what comes through me, what comes out of me, my experience, my diversity, I'm authentic to my story, and my stories are authentic to me. And you can accept that and enjoy it, or you cannot. Like, I'm making a choice, and everybody else is free to make their choice as well.
I love that. I was thinking about the character in Francesca because I think she felt like she was in a box too. And so that's why I asked in the beginning, did there anything that influenced?
See, I'm like, we might find some parallels, but they're not, but it's not intentional. Yeah, not at all.
So as we're, going to close out, what do you, with this being your first book that you're going to put out, like, what do you really want the people, I know you want everybody to love it. Of course, you want to sell 1 million copies.
That would be ideal.
New York Times bestseller. But what do you want people to walk away with after they read this book? What would you want them to see or feel? Or
I'm going to back up from that a second. Okay. So one thing I just want to say, the romance genre is very different. We kind of mentioned that earlier on, in that the stories that we tell today are not the stories that were told, a long time ago. And they're very different, and they're very reflective of the society that we live in. There's tropes to romance. There's always going to be tropes to romance. You cannot not have them. So my book would be like, unexpected pregnancy, arranged marriage, trope, billionaire romance subgenre of the romance. And there's a million subgenres in the romance category. And so it's right now, romance is one of the top selling genres on Amazon. It's, bookstores are dying around the country, but romance only bookstores, there's actually about a dozen of them around the country that are thriving, that are doing very well. And so it's this really great genre that I'm writing for, but a very busy, a very prolific, a very varied genre. And so, it's like I am dropping, my little project in the, surrounded. Surrounded by a bunch of other projects. Right. So it's, yes, I would love for everybody to love it and sell, 1 million, copies and be the next Rebecca Yarros. Never happening. But by the way, Fourth Wing, amazing book. So that's romantasy. It's a whole nother conversation. But I think one of the things that I start with my team when we start our marketing plan is it's just finding your audience, right? It's just finding your audience. I mentioned Fourth Wing of Rebecca Yarros, literally one of the top selling books in America for, I don't know, probably over, it's a 3-book series, 3 of 5 book series. And for years, I mean, this is a multi-million-dollar author, name recognition, everything. And yet there are still probably 1 million people out there who will never read her book because they don't like romantasy. There are people who've read it and don't like it. There are people who don't like so you can have all the success in the world. There's always going to be people that you're just not going to meet, or people who aren't going to feel you. And that's just part of it. So really for me, it's finding my audience. I want to find my audience. And then I want my audience to love what I've given them, This is the first book of 3 I will be following. So Ethan has 2 twin siblings, Paul and Penny, or Penelope, as she goes by professionally.
Penny, I really like Penny. Yeah.
And also Dirty Dancing nod for if you know. And so Paul's book is going to be the next one. And then Penny's book, I'm pretty sure I'm bringing it to Napa. I'm pretty sure she's going to be in Napa. Okay. This book is called 9 Months. The next one for Paul will be called 9 Weeks. And then Penny's will be called 9 Days. So there is a series. And so I'm hoping that this debut novel, finds an audience, that audience grows, and that they follow me, that they want to keep reading the journey of the others. And that whoever you are, no matter what you look like or where you are in life or what you're doing, that you connect to the story that I'm telling, that you stick with it, because there are some elements that people might, I think you mentioned this earlier, maybe off camera, but if you feel like it's going to be predictable, and it's not. And so I feel that there's some people that may think like, one of the things that's true about this book, and I've been told, by a lot of people, romance readers don't like this at all. And there's some truth to that. I'm not going to deny it. There's a little bit of a cheating element in it. But it's not as black and white as it seems.
Right.
And it's not as predictable as it seems. And so, keeping with that, And you know, just like sticking with the story and sticking with the characters and trusting that I've got you and that you are going to, you know, walk away from it with that happily ever after and that feel good feeling and like, you know, rooting for all of the characters except for Matthew. We don't like Matthew. Dad, not for Matthew. We don't. Yeah. And so so that's basically, you know, if that happens, then I'll be happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Well, I'm excited for you. And I like I said, I was up literally finishing the book literally this morning because, you know, I was reading a book. I'm more of a nonfiction book reader. Mm-hmm. So to just read a book that's like story, I'm like, okay, I knew I had to read it because we're going to talk about it. But I really, really want to congratulate you. And I really want to say it's really a good book. And I'm not just saying, I told her earlier before we got on camera, I said if it sucked, I would have canceled the interview. So,
and I would have gone with it. I would have been like, thank you for saving me from the humiliation.
I would have been like, let's do it another time. And I really mean that. Because it drew me in. I know I opened it up with the erotic scene, but it's not an erotica. It's a very detailed story. It's about life. There's love. There's betrayal. There's lies. There's all kind of stuff, right? There's friendship. There's, everyone is trying to protect their interests. And at the same time, you know, it blows up and then you have to come back to the truth. And that's one of the things I like about it too, is that that's kind of like real life. At the end of the day, we all got to come back to truth. Yeah. At the end of the day, we all, you know, whether it's on that level or on whatever level it's on, you do got to come back to truth to end the story. And so, I think people are going to walk away very fascinated, in love with it. And congratulations to you.
Thank you. And, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm just so happy for you. And thank you guys for just sitting here and listening to the story. And I'm telling you, it will do you so much more justice if you watch this, read the book, watch it again. It really would. It's so exciting. And 9 months will be out here coming in 2026.
Yeah, it's supposed to, right now we're looking at a mid-February launch. Okay. Probably start doing pre-orders in January. Okay. So, and I just want to say that you mentioned that it is a spicy open door romance. If you know what that means, it means the bedroom door is open. Mm-hmm. But it's a love story. And, you know, any adult who's been in love, sex and love, they go hand in hand.
Just one quick thing I thought about when you're writing those scenes, because I know I'm sitting there reading. And I'm like, sheesh. Like when you're writing it, is it like, how do you feel when you're writing it? Is it just, it's just pen to paper and you're not thinking about it? Or are you really into the moment?
It is very technical, actually.
Okay.
It is very, like, I think about when actors talk about love scenes, right?
Yeah.
And
they're like, it's no big deal.
No, move your hand here. Move, they're not, it's like, it's not sexy at all. You're trying to, you know, and that's literally.
The finished product is sexy, but.
When it's extremely technical, you're just like, wait, and you have to think about placement, right? Like, wait, would her leg, would that go there? Would that, you know, like you're trying, and then you're looking at the word choice, you know, you can only say like, you know, bliss, pleasure, desire, like so many times, right? Mm-hmm. So you're like trying, so it's very technical. The opening scene, So I'll say we start out the gate because it's a pregnancy romance and there's only one way to get pregnant. Well, actually, there's multiple ways to get pregnant, but there's only kind of one. There's a number one way to get pregnant. We'll put it that way. It's the number one way to get pregnant.
You don't gotta be politically correct. You know?
Yeah. And that's how these two, that's the path these two took. So it opens up out the gate with this. And I rewrote that scene or tweaked it and would go back. No, that word. No, maybe move that sentence up. It's so super technical. It is not sexy at all. It is not sexy at all. In fact, it gets annoying at a point. You're just like, oh God, okay, wait, no, we got to do it. So it's actually, no pun intended. It's actually, I'm not going to say the other word. It's actually very difficult. It's actually very difficult.
So it's like no fun. Like
it's not fun. Yeah, okay. No. You know, when you read it, it's fun. But other authors might have read some very great sex scenes from different authors. I don't know if they had the same challenges, but there's nothing fun about it when you're writing it. Yeah.
So, well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching, and we hope you enjoy it. Meet Me in Apple Podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Like, subscribe, share. We love you guys. Thank you, Miss Elena Marie. Yes. And we'll see you 9 months.
Thanks.